So off we go. I'm going to assume, I know that there were all these people talking to me about this, so I'll assume that they'll trickle in, but let's get started. So I want to introduce all of you to the absolutely amazing Bronwyn Reid, who has stepped in at the last minute for this. And I think that this is probably a talk we should have watched a long time ago, because it's how to tap into those corporates. Bronwyn has got a background in science. She's got a couple of companies that actually works with big corporates. She then wrote a book called, let me hope, Small Company, Big Business. Thank goodness it's behind you. And another book after that, which was Big Crisis, Small Company or something.
Small Company, Big Crisis.
Okay. Bronwyn is just amazing. So I think this is all going to be really, really useful for all of us. And she knows that a lot of us have service-driven businesses, because the other thing she can work with, if anyone ever is listening to this and has products, is she's very good at helping you get into the procurement departments as well. But I'm going to shut up because I don't really know what I'm talking about. Bronwyn, thank you so much. Over to you.
Awesome. Okay, I thought this first little video here, I thought that looked like a learning table, so I sort of thought that might be something appropriate for us.
I like it.
Yes, our little learning table. Now my computer's just decided to have a little hissy fit.
And right at the same time as mine doesn't want to show everybody that's here. Anyway, hello everyone who's here. Bronwyn is just trying to work it. Now, Bronwyn is up in Atherton Ranges, or is
no,
it?
No. I'm in Emerald in central Queensland.
There you go. So, yeah, so technology, thank God, is connecting all of us across the country today.
It's just got the little hourglass thing.
Okay, so that might be an internet thing, or otherwise unshare and then share again. Or even jump out and jump back in again if you think it's something like that. But just try clicking on share screen to unshare. Up at the top it says, yeah, unshare. And try again, see if it works.
People here.
Hi, Danielle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's somebody here that's not showing up.
PowerPoint is not responding. So
Eloise, yours is not showing. Oh, you haven't got your... I know why. Because I this morning did a whole, if people haven't got their videos on, hide them and lost it. Okay, what's it doing, Bronwyn? Otherwise,
I just had to restart PowerPoint.
Okay. Otherwise, I was thinking, I didn't think of it, but you can always send it to me and I can put it on and share it, and you can just go beep every time you need to share, move the screen on.
Right. We will just go here and we'll go share screen again.
And then I'd say get it off that first screen with the video, because that might also be playing around with it, with the bandwidth.
Yeah. Why does it always do this to me? Like, honestly, seriously, it has a pops on my computer.
Yeah, it's working. It's working. There you go. I just get it off that screen pretty fast. So it should just move with the arrow keys.
It's just being really slow and difficult.
It might be the video that is giving it a bit more. Anyway, there you go. It stopped anyway.
Right.
There we go.
Right. This is supposed to be my big opening, which was completely blown.
Oh.
$550 billion a year.
Is that how much they spend?
That is a lot of money. So that is the trade between big businesses and small businesses. Mm. Now,
I feel like that man in that picture.
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
That's I couldn't get an updated figure for that. But there's another figure below that, 22.6%. And I know the STEM women here will appreciate me putting the 0.6 in there. I have I have big arguments with my speaking mentor, because, you know, he would say, you know, almost 1/3. But no, it's got to be 22.6. It's accurate. But 22.6% of procurement by big companies is with us.
Wow.
Small businesses.
Like really small though? Will they work with companies that have only
Absolutely.
Okay.
Right down to micro.
I'm
right
going to shut
down
up now. Go for it.
And that figure is from August 2023. So,
wow.
And I know the organization that does that research. So that's just us over there playing in the corner by ourselves, small businesses and big businesses. That's not selling to consumers. That's just us.
Wow.
So if you look at that, that is almost 1/3 of GDP is just us trading amongst ourselves. So that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money to invest in the relationship between us and big businesses.
Yeah.
But just as in real life, relationships don't always run smoothly. Now, if you remember back in your dating days when you thought everything was going well and then it just all fell apart. And so it is between SMEs and big companies. Sometimes the relationship just breaks down.
Right.
So me, I've lived and worked in lots of places. I have been 27 years in business for myself. We own an environmental consultancy, and that's where I've learned all my lessons, wasted all my money, and made all my mistakes. That allows me to come and speak to you today. We work with all of the big mining companies. We work with all levels of government. We work with general industry, agribusiness. And going back to my childhood, my family owned large agribusiness operations. So I guess I've spent an entire lifetime being a very small supplier to very, very large companies.
Right.
But there's lots of problems. So that's why I wrote Small Company, Big Business, which is my first book. I now speak a lot about this. I had to do workshops, keynotes, etc., to wonderful groups like this. I also do a lot of mentoring of small businesses. But I also now talk a lot to big businesses about what I call the gap effect. It's that communication gap, the everything gap that's preventing billions and billions of dollars worth of economic trade and value every single year. So that's what I'm going to talk about today, is the gap. And I can talk about this all day, but people won't listen to me all day. So that was the other reason I wrote the book. So people can get my stuff without having to listen to me all day. I've just released the 2023 version of this, updated after COVID. Is an Amazon bestseller, and it is currently under the eye of the judges for the Australian Business Book Awards, which are on next week. So manifesting, everybody, manifesting.
Yes.
Just want to be a finalist. So why am I talking to you today? I'm going to give you the 5 secrets of why this communication gap exists. Then I'm going to look at how we can actually live happily ever after together. And to do that, I'm going to introduce 2 friends of mine. First of all is Sally. Now, Sally Small Biz is her name. Now, she owns the Widge Co. And she was the inventor of the Super Widge, which you may not have heard about yet, but I'm sure you will. And she went on Shark Pond and managed to attract $1 million worth of investment from the entrepreneurs on Shark Pond. So now, at long last, she's got some capital, so she can really ramp up production of the Super Widge. She can get a world-class marketing campaign going. She can employ a PR consultant like Jules Brooke, who's awesome.
Not anymore.
Get the word out there. So she is incredibly excited. My other friend is Barry. This is Barry Big Biz. Now, he works for a very, very large company called Coalworths. And at Colworth, he's known as a bit of a procurement superhero. He heads up the whole procurement department, and he reports directly to the board. So he's something special. But he has one big nightmare: his competitor, My Jones. They're always there. They're always on his tail. So now I've introduced you to my two friends. We're going to look at a couple of other reasons why I'm sharing this with you today. First of all, of course, that $550 billion, that's a large amount of money. The second thing that is the result of this gap is that, as I said before, we're missing out on billions of dollars worth of economic value in our own economy. So we're cutting off our own nose to spite our face by not getting this engagement between the two better. Last of all, it's COVID. Now, COVID changed everything. I know you can all remember it. I know it might seem a little bit in the past now, but it's changed everything for us. It's brought about one of the biggest changes for SMEs since World War II. For two reasons. One, I'm sure you can remember that when all the lockdowns started and the planes stopped and the trains stopped and the ships stopped and the people stopped, all the supply chains fell apart. There was people fighting in the supermarkets over toilet paper. I'm sure you can remember that. So all of these big, long supply chains that big companies had set up for efficiency collapsed. They didn't want to deal with us prior because they perceive us to be a risk. So they set up these big, long, complicated international supply chains, which were big business to big business. Then, of course, that all collapsed. So now we found out where the real risk was, and it wasn't in dealing with a small supplier. So that's one thing that happened. A lot of big companies now are looking onshore and local for their supplies. Secondly, and I know you've also will have noticed this, the rise of environmental and social governance, corporate social responsibility. Is everybody familiar with those terms? Just shout out if you're not, please.
I'd say, can you explain them anyway for anyone who might not be here that's going to listen to this afterwards?
We humans have decided during COVID as a collective that we don't want to do things the same anymore. We want our businesses to be more socially responsible. We want them to be more environmentally responsible. So we've had the Great Resignation, where people have said, I don't want to work for the man anymore, or get told when I can and can't have a holiday and work 12 hours a day and then get fired anyway. So people are disengaging from that. And corporate social responsibility, again, that comes to what are you doing for your community? What are you doing for your society? What are you doing for your employees? Now, employees, financiers, suppliers, and customers are all looking at the social performance of companies, including yours. You're not exempt, just being a small company. Millennials do not wish to work for companies that do not accord with their values. They will take a pay cut rather than work for a company that does not accord with their own personal values. So part of that engagement with community, engagement with society, involves engaging with small businesses. So for those two reasons, I say that this is the best opportunity for small businesses in Australia since World War II.
Wow.
We need to make the most of it. Some of the big companies are starting to drift back to those silly international supply chains. But I firmly believe that it is an opportunity for small businesses. There was lots of research during COVID for Australian consumers would actively seek Australian products and Australian companies.
Yeah.
I know that's all tied up a little bit now with inflation and cost of living that puts a little bit of a damper on it, but there is still a large proportion of the Australian population that will actively seek out your product and your service. So here we go, secret number 1. And we're going to go back to Sally and Barry for that. As a result of being on Shark Pond, part of the prize was that Sally gets to have an appointment with Barry. Now, Sally has been trying for years to get an appointment with Barry to get her products into Coalworths. And she's never had any luck. But now, because she was clever enough to win on Shark Pond, she's got that interview. So she has gone and prepared what she thinks is an absolutely fabulous pitch deck. And she's practiced her pitch over and over and over and over. And she's got a really good call to action. Her call to action is to have all of the New South Wales stores of Coalworths stocking the Super Ridge by Christmas, and then to have it stocked in all stores over the next 2 years across Australia. So she's pretty darn confident. But I'm just going to take a little quick aside here. This graph here, and I know everyone hates graphs. Oh no, we've got some STEM people. I love graphs. But it's not one of those graphs that you get at a conference where you're going like this and it's in size 6 font at the end of the room and you can't read it. When I first set out to write Small Company, Big Business, I had access to a couple of very large small business databases. So I did some of my own original research. And this particular question, what are the things that stop you from dealing with big companies? And you can see getting noticed was the standout winner. We just can't get on their radar and get them to notice that we're here.
Right.
And this is actually one of the big reasons why the gap exists. We don't go into that today. That might be a topic for another time, but you can see just how important that is to small businesses being able to get noticed. So what's the first thing we need to do about getting noticed and being visible? 50% of Australian small businesses do not have a website.
Oh my God, don't they? Wow.
No, and this has been consistent over several years. I mean, I honestly thought it would be improving, but it's actually not. And these figures come from, it's a group called something Marketing Research. Anyway, so yeah, if you haven't got a website, how the heck can they find you? The other ones is a lot of small businesses don't know where to look. They don't know where to look for tenders and where to look for expressions of interest, etc. So it's no wonder that the big companies don't even know that they exist. So poor old Sally's been knocking on Barry's door for years without any success, but now she's got some credibility. So if I ask you guys who are on the call here, has everyone here got a website to start with?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Please tell me you have a website.
Definitely.
Do you have sorry?
Yes, definitely.
Thank you, Karen. Do you all have a good, credible, up-to-date social media presence?
Yes.
No, but I'm working on that.
And I would even jump in and say specifically LinkedIn is the one that you've got to make sure it's up to date.
Yeah. I have improved it. It's still improving.
It's just that if you Google your name, that's the first thing that'll come up.
Yeah. No, I come up.
And if you've been on holidays to Africa and shot a lion, do not put it on Facebook.
It's wrong on so many levels.
On so many levels. All that time you got really, really drunk in the valley in Brisbane and someone shot at you trying to get into the taxi. Think of the credibility.
Yeah.
How many people know where to look for tenders?
No idea.
No idea?
No clue.
I didn't even know tenders was what you had to look for, to be honest.
Okay. So if I told you where to look for them, would you know what to do when you found them?
Maybe not.
Kinda. I've been part of it. I've been part of a group tender application.
Okay, so you at least know
I-
what they are, Karen.
I used to write tenders many years ago for a big graphic design company that I worked at, and for me, it feels a little bit like the Telstra Business Awards. Like, it is very complex, very full on, very corporate, and a bit scary.
Yeah.
And that,
But, sorry, no, go ahead, Karen.
I found when the one I was going for was a government contract, and they were using all of the good woke corporate words and sayings, but I have insiders in that industry, and it's the language and what they say they were was complete rubbish. So
yeah,
their credibility was very questionable.
And we'll come to that a little bit later.
And
That's definitely one of the gap things.
My experience with the tenders, I have had a fair background in it.
Mhm.
And, you know, at times the decision's half made before the tender even goes out. So, you know, there's some question in responding to them if, you know, you
And
know,
that's-
what relationships.
And the amount of work that's involved in responding to them to find out that you were never in with a chance anyway.
So with government, okay, that's my next question. Did you know that all levels of government have set aside billions of dollars of their spending for SMEs?
No.
They have.
Why?
For precisely those billions of dollars.
Right.
Yeah.
And if they're doing the social corporate responsibility, and the fact that I know anyway, I don't know whether you all do, that women are the ones who are leading the charge when it comes to purpose-driven businesses, does that put us in a better position in some ways if we just know how to communicate it?
100%. 100%. Because on any government tender, there'll be, you know, do you identify as Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander, you know, diverse cultural background, all that sort of stuff, and women. There's always the women box.
Okay, good.
Okay, so these targets are a work in progress. They are targets. They are not mandated yet. New South Wales is, I don't know if it's got there yet, but they were going to mandate 5% of ICT contracts for SMEs. I'm not quite up to date on that. So those tenders are more amenable to a small business.
Okay.
Governments have finally realised that continually employing PwC and KPMG isn't such a good idea.
Well, now that brings its own risk these days, doesn't it?
It certainly does. Okay, so that's the first little bit about visibility.
Can I just also say,
Yes.
on the one hand, we want to be visible, but on the other hand, is there an opportunity for them to PR if they are working with someone like us as well, for them to be able to use the connection as something that they can, I don't know, sell in, get more customers, whatever it might be? Do they brag about the fact that they're working with a women's group or a whatever?
The more enlightened ones, yes,
Okay.
but it's a long road.
Yeah,
to
okay.
Jules, you know, we're not at the end of this race.
Yeah, no, I just wondered whether they'd clocked that there was an opportunity at their end to promote.
Some of them definitely have.
Yeah.
It's like Indigenous engagement.
Yeah.
And some of them are still doing it really, really badly. But we've got I put this in the basket of dealing with SMEs and having SMEs as part of your supply chain. It's just good business.
Yeah.
It's just jolly good business.
And then one more question is the ME part of it. So if SME stands, sorry, and I'll just explain it in case anyone doesn't know, but SME is small and medium enterprises. The medium, I mean, small is up to like 1 million, isn't it? And then
look,
higher.
The definition of small is different from the ABS. It's different from the ATO. It's different for just about all the state governments. It is then, you know, the federal government will bring in a tax measure at tax time and say this is available to small businesses. It might be under $100 million, or it
Right.
might be under 5.
Yeah.
We do
But
have
it's
to.
in the millions. So if you're a very small business, micro-ish, up to $1 million, are you too small for them?
No.
Great.
No.
Okay. Just wanted to ask.
No. Yeah. So, as I said, it's just good business having small businesses in your supply chain.
Okay.
At the moment, as soon as I start to speak to a corporate about this, they say, "Oh yes, well it's important that we fulfill our ESG obligations." Yes, it is, but yeah, and I get really cross at it, but I'll take the win.
Yeah.
I'll take the win. Okay, that's about visibility. So that was secret number 1. They have to be able to see us. If we're not visible, we're not going to get any work. So we're going to move on to secret number 2 now. I keep on.
If the PowerPoint wants to work.
No. It's just. I shift the little strip of all your cases, and then it covers up the forward arrow. So back to Sally and Barry. Sally's done her pitch and she's feeling extremely proud. But then Barry starts speaking and she just doesn't expect it. Sally, he says, the risk. We can't take a risk with a small supplier like you. You're just a one-man band. I wish people would stop trying to call me.
I can understand why they are even this far into the presentation.
That was my son, probably asking for money.
Oh, yeah, I know that feeling.
Barry told Sally that she's a one-man band.
Right.
I've got my whole Coalworth supply chain to think of. I've got supply chain risks. What happens if you can't supply? I've got my reputation. Well, I've got my reputation as a procurement superhero with the board, but I also have to protect the impeccable commercial reputation of Coalworths. So the last thing I want to bring to the board is more risk. We've had enough of that. We've had COVID and now we've got inflation and we've got wars in Ukraine and wars in the Middle East. I just don't want to present any more risky propositions to my board. Thank you very much. So what's behind Barry's thought there is that he's making the assumption that all small suppliers, just doesn't get the concept of supply chain risk.
Right.
They don't get it. And he's making that assumption, and we all know what assumptions do. So Barry continues, Sally, to become a supplier to Coalworths, you've got to have a risk plan. You've got to have a quality plan. You've got to have an occupational health and safety plan. You've got to have an environmental management plan. You've got to have $20 squillion worth of professional indemnity insurance. You've got to have $70 squillion worth of product insurance and $100 squillion worth of public liability insurance. So, of course, poor old Sally is feeling a bit deflated, but not to be daunted, Barry goes on. I also need to know all your other clients so that I can assess whether you can meet our requirements as well as theirs. I need the resumes of your entire management team and your production supervisors. Oh, and by the way, here's the contract. It's only 145 pages in size 6 font. And we can change those requirements at any time and you'll have to comply. Oh, poor old Sally.
Sally's gone, I don't want your money, go away.
All she can hear in her brain is complexity, complexity, complexity. And 145-page contract. Really? All I'm doing is selling them some widgets. Why? So, but being a tenacious small business owner, she regathers, gets herself together, and she reminds Barry that the reason that she's got the meeting with him is because she got $1 million on Shark Pond. So therefore, she can get all this stuff done. She can put it all into place. She also explains to Barry how the Super Widget is far superior to the other widgets that are out there in the market at the moment, and that it really would be in Colworth's interest to stock the super widge. And anyway, she could always go to My Jones with her product. That, of course, sends Barry into a tiz. But from this first meeting with Barry and Sally, we can see secret, the secret between that's splitting them up right down the middle. They both recognize the same issue, but they're looking at it from the opposite point of view. So for Barry, he loves that complexity. He embraces it. To him, it's security. All those pages and pages in the contract, that represents security and no risk. He perceives that Colworths is reducing their risk by having all that stuff in place.
Right.
Yes, he freely acknowledges that it is a cost to Sally and the small suppliers, but it just all comes back to risk. Whereas poor old Sally, all she can see is complex. So I'm just going to bring back that graph that I had up earlier from my original research. And you can see I've put a ring around this word here, understanding. And that was one of the other big issues that small businesses say they face. They just don't understand the requirements. They don't understand all the quality systems and this systems and that systems and contracts and whatever. So not quite as big as some of the others, but certainly it is a major, major issue. So poor old Sally, she's a bit down. She goes home. After all the excitement of winning on Shark Pond and getting the investment, things just aren't going how she thought they should. So she goes home that evening and has a bit of a chat to her dog. And Sally is absolutely certain that she heard him say, "Don't give up." So she continues on. Meanwhile, Barry hasn't got a dog to talk to. He's just got to turn it over in his own brain. He knows he really wants that product. He knows that My Jones is out there after him. It's had great exposure on TV, being on Shark Pond. Whoops. But I know there's a real risk in taking on a supplier like Sally. And he also knows that Colworth's advertising theme for this quarter is the customer experience. And he didn't really understand what it was before, but now he does, because he's going to have customers out there wanting to buy the super widge, and he's not going to be able to supply it. So they're not going to have a very nice experience.
Yeah.
And there's always that threat of My Jones. So let's go into secret number 3. Because Barry is really keen to get this super widge into his stores, he actually calls Sally back for another meeting. So this time when the meeting starts, he says, "Sally, have you had a chance to have a look at all that documentation and the contract?" Sally says, "Well, yes, I have actually. I went to Larry Lawyer and had him look over it. And Larry actually said, there's a couple of things you need to be careful of here, Sally. First of all, he pointed out that the contract would give unlimited indemnity. Now, indemnity is the legal word for you're in trouble. So Sally didn't want to have all of that back on her little company. Barry also noticed that there was a termination clause, which meant that Colworths could terminate the contract at any time for any reason.
And they do that. They've just sent one of our very fabulous women to the ground because of a supermarket contract that got cancelled. Really?
Can we have a conversation offline? Because
sure. Unfortunately, I think it's too late because I did offer, but I'll have a chat with you. We can talk after this.
Because as of the 9th of November, that is probably illegal, as in a few days ago.
I reckon it happened about a month ago.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll have a chat.
Yeah. Okay. So as of the 9th of November, it's actually illegal to put those clauses in the contract if it favours one party over the other. So if we both have the right to terminate the contract, it's probably legal. Have we got any lawyers in the room?
No, we have plenty in the group, but none here
Okay.
today.
So that's one of the things. And then Larry Lawyer brought up, why the earth do you need all those multi-squillion dollars worth of insurance? Like it's probably just not necessary. That's what would be necessary if Coles was building a multi-billion-dollar big shopping centre.
Right.
For supplying widgets to sell in their retail stores. Undeterred, Barry continues. Sally, it just seems you just don't understand, Sally. We need to have really good, solid systems. We need quality. We need consistency. We need the policies to know that you're going to be able to supply in full, on time, with quality every time. He explains that's why people go to McDonald's. Not because McDonald's makes the best hamburgers, but because they're consistent. You don't get wilted lettuce and raw burger patties.
Never. Okay.
The other thing that Larry, the lawyer, has pointed out, that in that contract, they asked her to break down all her costs and give them all of her costs, including her profit margin.
Wow. Now,
this table that you're looking at there, I know it's a bit busy and it's a bit small. That is a direct copy of one that was given to us by a very large mining company when we were tendering. So we had to actually declare what profit margin. Now, of course, it's fiction. I mean, seriously. So, yeah. But this is the sort of intrusive. By the same token, Barry comes back and says, well, not all small suppliers have really good systems. In fact, a lot of our small suppliers play merry hell with our accounting systems. I know of one a buyer that was waiting for a $100,000 invoice for over 12 months. Now, that just plays merry hell with big companies' accounting systems. So Barry's kind of got a point there that, not all small businesses are up to playing the game. Now, that $100,000 invoice, that's a real situation. And needless to say, that supplier didn't get any more contracts with that company.
But also, you've got to be a certain kind of company to just allow $100,000 to go uninvoiced for a year.
Yeah, just badly managed, actually.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So, what's happened to my slide?
I don't know. We're looking at it.
Okay. Are you looking at the dog?
Yep.
Okay. So Sally goes home again. We're still no further towards a resolution. So she goes home and has another conversation with the dog, but unfortunately, Doggy this time has got nothing to offer. So she's on her own. Poor Sally, she says, I've invested so much in this. I went on Shark Tank, I won. And now I've got this golden opportunity. What am I going to do? What am I going to do next? That leads us to the end of Secret 3. Most small businesses just don't have those systems to be able to supply in full, on time, with quality every time. So Barry's got a point.
Okay.
Now we go on to secret number 4. Barry's still keen. So they're going into their next meeting now. And this time Sally has consulted the dashing Adam Accurate, who is her accountant. And Adam advises her to clear up the whole thing about payment terms. And Barry Big Biz immediately replies, yes, it's 90 days after the end of month when your invoice is approved. Wow, says Sally. So she whips out her phone and does a few little calculations and says, Barry, that's up to 150 days. I've been waiting for my money for up to 5 months. Yes, says Barry. However, we've got a solution for you. Coalworths has partnered with a finance company and we can loan you the money while you're waiting for us to pay you. If you give us a 10% discount, we'll pay you in 30 days. How about that? So Sally's all just a little bit stunned about this because she knows what her cash flow is going to look like, because she's got to gear up now. She's got to buy more materials. She's got to employ more staff. She's probably going to have to rent a bigger warehouse. And on that note, Australian companies are the world's worst payers. Did you know that? Did you know that Australians hold the world record for late payments?
That's a disgusting stat.
Not something to be proud of.
No.
Now this is from Xero. You know, Xero, the accounting people, because they're not an accounting company, they're a data company. They just have access to, you know, tons of data. Small businesses. Half of all payments to small businesses are late. And they put that cost at $1.1 billion per year. Now, that's not just payments from big businesses either. We are equally culpable as small businesses. We are equally responsible to pay our own suppliers on time. And some small businesses, again, just don't play the game.
So the Australian companies is all size companies.
All size companies.
Right. Yeah, that would be true.
What we can do now, though, is the federal government introduced a law, and it's the payment times register. So if you've been offered to go and, you know, supply to Coalworths, you can go on this register on the government website and find out what Coalworths' normal payment terms are and how they're going against that.
Okay.
So if Sally went on there and found out that Coalworths' normal payment times is late and most suppliers aren't getting their money for 145 days, she may decide to just walk away.
Yeah.
So, no, not here.
At this stage, could you not negotiate that? Or not yet?
Yeah, look, you can, and I have done it. I've just recently negotiated a mining company down to 14 days.
Yeah.
They do kick and scream and buck and carry on a lot.
You go, just make the exception for me. You can pay everyone else late. All I care about is that you just pay me on time.
At the same time, I have another company that is paying late, and we never have late payments because I've trained them all so well.
Right.
The Australian Small Business and Family Enterprise Ombudsman did an inquiry into payment terms a couple of years ago, and one person gave evidence to that and said, 120 days. I know of one country where we have 365-day payment terms.
Right.
Yeah. So
very good cash flow to be able to wear that kind of payment term.
Yeah. So secret 4, do you really want to do this? Like, there's a lot of stuff in here that, you know, you really do have to take a good stock of what you're getting into. And I'm not trying to, I don't have a copy of my book here. I'm not trying to scare you off, but this sort of stuff does bring a lot of small businesses undone, particularly that cash flow.
And particularly, I guess, if they're product rather than time oriented.
Correct. But even time orientation, you know, a lot of small businesses sell their time by the hour. We know it's wrong, but it happens. So if all of a sudden Coalworths wants you to be their corporate trainer, you cannot get more than 24 hours in a day. They don't make them. Is
it possible to negotiate part payment up front? Do they do that?
Again, it's simple negotiation.
Right.
When I say simple negotiation, it's not always simple. I'll tell you.
That's something that you
about that at the moment. My client at the moment, our mining client that's paying late, I had a meeting with him and said, look, sorry guys, you're just going to have to pay 50% up front.
Yeah.
And the most bizarre thing happened. They started negotiating with me about what percentage to pay up front.
Yeah, nice. So you just went, oh, I should have said I want it all up front, and then you can negotiate back to 50%.
No, just
But it's just that I know that, for instance, with governments, I do some work with a council, and the council will give me 50% up front, but basically they say we're not supposed to pay until the job is done.
Yeah.
So they've got that other thing where they kind of go, our hands are tied. We have to see the work before we're allowed to approve the last part of it.
And that is the case. But
yeah, which is fair.
If you don't ask, you'll never get.
No. And I always feel right at that time when they really, really want you is the best time to be saying, you can have me, but I want half of it up front, or I want a third of it up front, or whatever.
Because I found this whole thing of negotiating how much they want up front.
Did you land on a number that you...
But I just said, look, pay the bill. You know, because this is ridiculous. We're negotiating on how much you're going to pay. It's easy. Just pay the bill on the time.
Yeah, then we don't have to have this conversation.
We don't have to have this conversation at all.
Right.
So here's a little quiz. If you want to, you can whip out your iPhone, and there's a little quiz there that will help you to learn whether you are actually ready.
Oh.
And it might give you a couple of insights into perhaps some of those areas that I've already touched on that you may be a little bit missing on. I'm happy for you to spread that quiz far and wide. If you've got other friends, professional colleagues, whatever.
Right. I'm going to spread everything about you far and wide. I'm learning so much.
Not the bad things.
No, I won't tell anyone the bad bits.
So now we get on to secret number 5. Now, remember back at the first meeting where Sally presented her what she thought was a really good pitch deck?
Yeah.
And practiced her pitch. Barry didn't quite buy it, did he? He just didn't quite get it. So Barry now comes back to Sally and says, look, Barry, I've got to present this to the board. So we're going to be featuring you if we go ahead with this, we're going to be featuring you with on some of our Coalworth's ads. Now, Coles, some of you will have bought stuff from Coles. Have you seen the ads on TV where they say, here's the strawberry farmer and here's the,
Yep.
potato farmer? Well, my brother's on one of those. So, but that's the story. That's the story behind Sally, behind what prompted her to create the Super Widge. Now, we as small business owners are probably, and particularly as women, we are not very good at telling our story. Now, Jules, we need people like Jules who've taught us how to do that.
Now, are you talking about getting story into the media, like visibility wise, or is it just
no? I'm talking about just on your website.
Oh, okay, right.
What is your story? If you have a look at the website of my environmental company, which is just 4T, the number 4 and the letter T.com.au, you'll see that I talk very little about water sampling and soil sampling and stuff. It's all about story. It's about what we believe in. It's about the story of us.
Right.
That's what we're not very good at doing. You will need to have a thing called a capability statement. Has anyone got a capability statement or even know what one is?
No.
No? You may not have to have one, but it's a good idea to have one. Your website, we've already talked about websites. I just talked about websites then in people looking for beyond, I do tax returns as an accountant. Well, no. Who would have thought as an accountant you would do tax returns?
Right.
We need to get a lot more of our own story and our purpose onto our website. And then, of course, tenders. We spoke a little bit about tenders before. And I did speak a little bit about the tenders that are available for SMEs from government.
Can you just go back to capability statements, please, Bron?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. I can give you an example of one. I'll send it through to Jules. Yeah.
Sure, but can you just tell us sort of top level?
Okay.
Is it
A capability
about what you do?
It's pretty much what it says on the tin, really. It's a statement of your capabilities to undertake a particular set of work. So I own an environmental company. I don't have the capability to build a bridge.
Right.
I do have the
boundaries around what it is that you can do and being quite specific about it.
Yes, and I can take on contracts up to probably $3 million a year.
Right.
You know, bigger than that, I really can't resource it. I haven't got the team. I can tell them that I've got all those squillion dollars worth of insurance. I can tell them that I can do, so again, I'm drawing on our environmental company. We do water, air, soil, noise. We don't do animals, we don't do plants. So that is all in our capability statement.
Right. And is that on your website?
It will be on the 4T website, yes.
Right.
And that will be often your first introduction when you reach out to somebody, is to present them with your capability statement.
Okay.
Because they know, they then know exactly what you can and can't do. Now that capability statement, if you grab it off our 4T website, and I will send a copy to Jules, that I'm not sure if it still is, but it was being used in both state government, Queensland state government, as an example of a capability statement in their workshops. So it's good practice.
All right.
Is that okay? Is that okay, Karen?
Yeah, so that would have that you're fully qualified to do X, Y, Z, what exclusions that you definitely do not do, that which might be covered by other people. And I'm assuming qualifications,
Right.
those type of things, yeah, and maybe the previous clients or list of clients you might have used, yeah.
And recent clients. The fact that you built a bridge 10 years ago doesn't count.
Yeah.
And do they want to talk to our clients?
Yes, they will almost always ask for referees.
Okay.
Almost always. So.
You didn't tell us where we could get tenders, but is that coming?
No, that's a whole separate. But I can.
Okay.
I have an infographic, Jules.
Yeah.
I will send that infographic through to you, and
you
you can pass it on to everybody.
All right. Fantastic.
Right. How do we live happily ever after? I've got two sides of this coin. That's my dog. One of my dogs. We as SMEs, we have a little wish list. It's like a Christmas Santa list. We would like big companies just to make it a bit easier for us. Please, just make it a bit easier. Pay us on time. Please think before you go introducing a whole heap of new regulations and change the rules every second Thursday over afternoon tea. Think about what you're doing and ask us. We actually do know things. Ask us for ideas. Ask us how it will affect us. You know, there's a reason why big companies buy little companies, and it's because little companies can innovate and big companies can't.
Right.
When they make their contracts, please don't just copy and paste from the $10 billion construction project. You know, we don't need $20 million worth of public liability insurance to supply the coffee cups. It's not necessary.
Can I just jump in on that, because the councils do require you to have $20 million worth, but I just want everyone to know that costs $35 a month.
Yeah.
Depending obviously on your risk and whatever, but it sounds bloody awful, but it actually isn't quite as bad. But I do think that they probably do want millions. They
do. And I did allude to those insurance clauses in the contract earlier. But a lot of this is just, you know, we've always wanted $20 million worth of public liability insurance. So there's been no thought process.
Right.
Why we actually
paste. Everyone's the same.
Mm-hmm. And it's not always about price. It's not always about price. So if they ask us to have, you know, a top-notch safety system, which of course you have to have in the mining industry and the construction industry, don't expect us to have this all singing, all dancing safety system and then screw us down on price.
Yeah, true.
Doesn't work that way. Well, it does work that way.
What you get, basically.
Correct. For big, we don't have to tell, as small businesses, we don't have to tell the big businesses about the environmental social governance and the corporate social responsibility and all that stuff. They are learning about it themselves, although people like me continue to educate them. Don't presume that because you're the procurement officer, that there is a procurement officer in Jules' books. Because Jules is probably the procurement officer, she's the finance officer, she's the facilities manager, she's the admin officer, she's the mum, she washes the under 7 footy teams' jerseys. Consider all the roles that we play as a small business owner. Language, it's the big one. I often think it's like one speaking Swahili and one speaking French. We're talking about tenders. Now, procurement people like Barry talk about RFTs and EOIs and ITTs and ROIs, and we don't speak that background. The last thing, and it's often a blinding flash of the bleeding obvious when I point this out to big company procurement people, consider your background. Now, if you think of somebody who's probably Barry, he came out of university, probably did an arts degree. Then he got it on as a graduate trainee at Coalworths, and he worked his way up and then got a promotion, learned a few things. Then he probably actually went to My Jones for a couple of years and got a few more promotions. And then he might have gone to BHP even for a little while and worked in their procurement department. And then he probably went across to maybe PwC or KPMG, and then eventually he's finished up back at Coalworths. At no point in that career progression did he have anything to do with a small business.
No.
But now he's expected to be in charge of small business procurement. He doesn't know what one looks like. He doesn't know what they think like. He doesn't know what they do. So when I say that to big company procurement people and big company managers, they go, oh yeah, you're right, didn't think of that.
Yeah, right.
Here's the big organization Santa list. They want us to understand risk. They want us to understand how supply chains work. That if we just ring up one day and say, oh, sorry, Barry, I can't deliver this week, that smashes their supply chain and they have unhappy customers and they just don't like that. Have those great systems so that you can supply quality on time every time. Now, most people run away when I start talking a bit about business systems, but I've actually got a diagram that shows that everything about success in your business comes back to your business systems.
Right. Make
yourself visible. We talked about that. At least have a website. Sell us your value. This is that value and story thing. We just have not been very good about selling our unique value to big companies. And the last one, and I had some figures about this, but I can't find them updated. There is a large proportion of big businesses that when you ask them, they actually don't know all the products and services that their small suppliers supply or have. So you think, well, of course they know I do, soil sampling as well as water sampling, but have I ever told them? Do they actually know? I didn't tell them. This slide quickly is just it's a BHP initiative, and it's in my opinion, it is world's best practice in engagement of small and regional local business. Again, I can talk to the ends of the earth about that. I have been involved with this program since it started 13 years ago, and it is excellent. It has support at BHP board level. And I just wish more big companies would take notice and do it.
Is this public facing, so we can go and Google local buying
Absolutely.
foundation BHP?
Yes, you can go and just Google local buying foundation.
Okay.
But actually, Google local buying program. What happens under the local buying program is that small businesses and mine sites form a contract for a certain amount of work. And for every contract that's done under the program, 5% of that money gets put into a foundation. And then that foundation spends the money on small business development and community development.
Okay.
In places where BHP has a footprint. And I'm one of the people that says where the money goes.
Great. We're all going to suck up to you then.
You've got to be in a BHP footprint area. Any of you in Newcastle? That's
No.
a BHP. That's a BHP footprint area.
I'd love to be. Haven't got a property yet.
Right. Okay. Well, keep it in mind. And of course, we all wish for trust, ethics, and knowing the business purpose. I do a lot of speaking and talking about this now, especially since COVID. This stuff is not new. It's been around for decades in academia and in the fringe press, like The Guardian, odd publications like that. But now you can actually read about ethics and trust and environmental social governance in the Australian. So, we are making some progress.
Right.
If we can get to this point of understanding, we can get there where both understand each other's problems. Because it really, in all cases, it's exactly the same problem, but they're just looking at it from their own point of view.
Right.
I slipped this one in. This is from that very recent research. This is from some recent research about how big businesses can get more out of their suppliers. Note the languaging, how they can get better performance from their suppliers. These are several interventions that were available to them. Understanding their business. So understand their business, understand your supplier's business and their aspirations. It is rarely used, but if a big company did use it, they can get a performance boost of 11%. So
just to clarify that is if BHP really wants to understand what your T4 company does, and they really understand what your aspirations are, if they bothered to do it, they could get a performance boost out of you of 11%.
Correct.
Right. Yeah, well, that's so true.
It is absolutely true. And it's there. And, there's another one. Educate your suppliers in the big companies' aspirations and strategies. Rarely used, 9% uplift.
Yeah. If we all knew what their pain points were, we could work with them to relieve them of it.
100%.
Right.
Yes, 100%. So the message, when clients and suppliers see each other as irreplaceable, that's where the magic happens. And I love this little guy. Look at that.
He's very cute.
So where we've been. Complexity and cost. We looked at poor old Sally dealing with all the complexity. Barry and his worrying about systems and quality. We looked at payments, and I forgot to put the visibility thing in here.
Yes, you did. That's right.
Quick look at how to play nicely together.
Brilliant.
Challenge. I've got two things for you now. I've got a challenge. In your work role, what can you do? Which part of those things can you do? Can you do a little bit more study on your big targets and find out a little bit more about them and the supply chain problems that they have? The next thing I have is a little poll, actually.
Right.
Do you have the facility to open that?
Do you want me to do it, or do you want to do it? But you can do it, I think, yourself now. Do you want me to create a poll?
If you can. No, if everybody just scans that QR code with their phone, you'll get the poll up on your phone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the question.
Oh, I took a photo of it. God, I'm an idiot. Okay, how much documentation? You would have to customize them for your business.
The question is, if you were able to get fully prepared systems documents, back to Barry, he wants the quality system, he wants the environmental management system, he wants the OHS system.
Yeah.
If you could have that done, but then you would have to tweak it for your business. I mean, obviously my business is different to yours. What would you pay for that?
Can I say it would very much depend on how much money I was going to get out of them. So I would pay you $10,000 if I was going to, you know, a month if I thought I was going to make $1 million a year out of it. Whereas if I don't know whether under $500 a year, if I'm going to get, you know, 20 grand out of them. It's very hard to decide, but I would say unlimited depending on the amount that I'm going to get back in return. Is there a way we can qualify this a bit?
Not in the actual poll, but certainly we can open that up for a discussion.
Yeah, because we are going to have a discussion anyway. Like, I'm very happy to say over $2,000 a year, but it would just, I don't know whether I'd get that, whether it would be worthwhile. But let me put that in anyway and send it to you, because it'd be nice for you to have a response like that, I would think.
If you were Sally, put yourself in Sally's shoes.
No, I'd like Sally to be a supplier of not widgets, a supplier of a training program.
Okay, so next version of the presentation, Sally will supply a training program.
And if she does, and we're still talking about maybe $500,000 a year, then absolutely I'd pay $2 million, $2,000. In fact, even if it was 200,000, I'd probably pay $2,000 for it.
Yeah, it would be justifiable then. I did all of this to set up the biotech company, and this is back in 2000. And I know that I was sending all of the data, and this guy, we were paying to put it through the ISO 2009, and all of that accreditation was costing the company $30,000 for the year. But $30,000 back then was probably the equivalent to either 120, more than that, thousand in today's date.
And what were you going to get out of it though? So
we had to get it for regulations and to keep register as a biotech company and be credible overseas. And we had international customers. So
I guess what I'm saying though is $30,000. What percentage of the income that you got out of having it as a result of having that?
Oh yeah,
$30 million.
Multi-millions, yeah.
Okay.
Millions,
yeah. Because I think it's how long is a piece of string. I mean, if I was going to get I'd pay you $500 if I was going to get 150,000, and then I'd work my way up from there, kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd exactly the same. It's all proportional.
And it's also very hard to know how much to outlay if you don't know that if it's a lottery and you have no idea whether you're going to get anything out of it.
Yeah, but it's often the what I call paying the entry price.
Yeah, well, that's it. What is the entry price?
I'm going to put a proviso in there. Karen was talking then about having the ISO certification. So ISO, anybody
I know
ISO is International Standards Organization. So the International Standards Organization, then there's also Australia and New Zealand standards, and they set standards for what your company must do to be able to prove that you can do what it is that you do well.
And it's jumping over quite a few hoops, isn't it?
It is.
That.
Now, I'm just going to tell you now, my environmental company is not accredited.
Right.
I have never been accredited, but I have mapped to. And I've been audited by Rio Tinto twice and a couple of other companies, and I have, to my knowledge, I have never ever lost a contract because I wasn't accredited.
Okay.
Now, if I want to work for the Defence Department, yes, they do require, and Karen's just given us an instance there where you have to be accredited. To me, the advantage of being absolutely having that accreditation is that often when you're in a tender or an expression of interest, it'll say, are you ISO accredited? And you can put a tick. and then you just go on to the next page.
So,
you don't
and
tick-
does that kind of make them go, phew, okay, the risk is now mitigated, the reputation, you know, like it's a tick box if you wanted to work with government so that you don't have to do so much each time?
But usually if you can't tick yes, they will then ask 10
Or
more questions.
questions that would be involved anyway.
So, because I live remotely, you have to be accredited, you have to be inspected, and that I've got to fly somebody up from Sydney or fly somebody up from Brisbane. To me, it just has not been.
But what if you're just little old me and I've got a little online program that I want to sell into them? I mean, are they going to require all of that for?
Yep.
Wow.
They are. They absolutely are. And that's why I'm saying if somebody could provide you with all the documents.
Yes. Well, sight unknown, I'd pay $500, and I guess up to 2,000 if it was if it meant that maybe I could tick those boxes for a few different tenders or expressions of interests.
Yes. Yeah. It would be ongoing.
Mm. Yeah. Oh, there's only 3 of us. Are you finished this? Shall I stop recording so we can natter?
Yep.
Or have we got a bit more of this?
No. That's
it. Was Bronwyn, just before I turn off the recording, you have blown my mind. This has been absolutely brilliant. I mean, I'd put this down as one of the best ones I've you know, listened to on the learning table. It's super practical, and it's, you know, to know that there's, and now let's just quickly talk about the 550 billion, because Karen and I were getting confused, and she was going, that's 124 billion, 26% of it. But you were saying 550 billion is what is being spent with small business, and it's 20% of the GDP. Is that right?
Yeah, now I couldn't find that figure to replicate it.
Right.
And even if the 550 billion is not numerically correct,
it's pretty bloody close.
It's pretty bloody big.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, you're absolutely amazing. Now, before I go, because we're recording this, do you want to just tell have you got a final slide that says how people can get in contact with you or work with you or get you as a speaker?
There we are.
Okay, great.
There we are.
I would highly recommend that anybody who wants to work with a big business comes and talks to you. You clearly know your stuff. So thank you very much. I'm just going to